Alright, you guys, UFC Fight Night at the Apex Las Vegas, Friday, April 5th. Main event featherweight clash between Josh Emmett and Lerone Murphy. Here's my predictions to the main card from bottom to top. Okay, so starting us off in the main card, we got a middleweight bout between Torrez Finney versus Robert Valentin. His last and only fight in the UFC ended via TKO KO to the hands of Loader. And man, what a grappling match that was. Lots of grappling exchanges, lots of reversals, a couple in which Valentin ended on top with great precision. But as quick as they came, as quick as they went, and this guy got reversed yet again. Like I said, I mean, it was a fun one. He did display that he scrambles. He will definitely scrambles once it hits the floor. But almost to his detriment. Eventually, he got reversed and ended up in a crucifix and got stopped via TKO KO. Whereas Finney, on the other hand, a Dana White's contender. I mean, it's just look at his physique. Everybody talks about this man's physique. This guy is the walking real life colossus. No neck, just yoked up. Probably juiced to the gills. And with such a physique comes great responsibility, right? This guy's definitely a wrestler. He will take you down. He's powerful. He will get his takedown. Pounds you out. Just lands hammer fists that you can hear the thud in them. I just don't see Valentin winning this one. I don't. All his scrambling's not going to help him against a wrestler that's going to be able to pin him down, hold him down, work him, land his strikes, and probably most likely ride him out and get a rear naked choke here. I actually see Valentin being able to hold him off for the first round. A lot of scrambles, but I think you come the second or early third round, Finney's gonna show his dominance and he's gonna get a stoppage here. Second or early third round. Second fight of the main event, we stay with middleweights. Brad Tavarez, who's still fighting, versus Gerald Meerschaert. Gerald Meerschaert. I just don't think this guy's any good. His striking is it's dangerously low, down to the depths of Ben Askren's. And the guy doesn't even have good takedowns. It's not like if he can blast a double leg or get you in a single leg and scoop you up, you know, a high crotch single takedown. It always mostly comes from just watching two average middleweights tiring out by the second or third round, right? And then they get into these weird scrambles, and then it looks like two uncles fighting at the bar, drunk, and then they kind of trip over each other. That's Gerald Meerschaert right there. And he's going up against Brad Tavarez, a guy who also is a hit or miss. Very talented, very explosive. I love Brad Tavarez striking. He did lose a decision against Park in his last fight, but I still have a little bit of hope for him. This guy could still create some highlights because, man, in some of those exchanges when Park brought it to him, Brad Tavarez fired back. And if it's not the fact that Park has an iron chin right now, physically he's in his peak, I see a lot of 185-pounders getting rocked and going down. What I did notice is Tavarez has always been a fighter that can easily get pushed back. As I mentioned, he will fire him back if you exchange with him, but I feel like he gets bullied a lot. And it's just not a good match. It's not a good style for most of these 185-pounders because the game plan against Tavarez is push, push, push. I have hopes here though, because Gerald Meerschaert has terrible striking. He's one of those guys that will strike and does this weird, he reaches to clinch you, you know, to get you in his element. I just don't see that working against Tavarez. And seeing Gerald Meerschaert get rocked and dropped over and over again throughout his career, I have hopes that Tavarez is going to clip this guy. and absolutely knock him out. I'm gonna say the fight ends in the second or third round. Once they're a little more fatigued and Gerald gets even more and more sloppy, Tavarez is gonna catch him. He's gonna catch him. He's gonna put his lights out. Again, second or third round. Third bout of the main event, heavyweight fight between Kennedy and Nzechukwu versus Martin Buday. Buday, what can I say? Had an extremely boring fight against Andre Arlovski, an aging Andre Arlovski at that. I don't like seeing fighters like this. I don't like watching them. It's just not fun. I mean, he made good use of his single collar tie-ups, clinch against Arlovski. But again, Arlovski, a guy who doesn't really have cardio anymore, doesn't have the explosiveness he used to. He doesn't carry the power that he used to. But they just seem very cautious, very, very afraid of a 40-something-year-old man. He did try to rough up Arlovski, so I'll give him that a couple times. Just heavy knees. He's one of those heavyweights that does throw effective heavy knees to the midsection when you tie up. They look painful, but again, it's just against an aging Arlovski, it's not the same as a younger Kennedy. In Nzechukwu's last fight, I mean, he did defeat Brzezinski, and before that, I think it was Chris Barnett, right? The guy looks good, man. He has a lot of he uses his distance well, for starters. So great use of the front teep, decent 1-2s, and like I said, just younger. So I feel that Buday's style, just trying to get in there, trying to clinch you up so he can rough you up with his knees or some uppercuts within the clinch, is just not going to work against Nzechukwu. I actually believe this is going to be a very boring fight. It's just going to consist of two heavyweights just kind of pawing at each other, taking their time. But Nzechukwu's front teeps, like I said, jab activity is probably going to outdo Buday. I do see Kennedy winning a 3-round decision here. But hey, get your pillows ready because it's probably going to be a snooze fest. Fourth fight of the main card, bantamweights, Cortavious Romious versus Chang-ho Lee. What I'm going to start off with for these two gentlemen is they both had a firecracker pace of a first round in their last fights. And because of that, it seemed like both of them tired out. They both gassed out, with the only difference being that Lee eventually wins his fight and Romious lost his fight. So let's talk about Lee first. Got dominated, got out wrestled. It seemed like he got absolutely manhandled. Not destroyed, but he got manhandled for sure. Unfortunately, it did become one of those fights where both fighters are fatigued. They can barely raise their arms to properly strike. It just wasn't a pretty fight to watch. Definitely not a fight that I would show my buddies. And it looks like Lee, though, unlike his opponent Long, figured it out. He started clinching him, throwing heavy knees to the midsection. Cortavious Romious. Man, this guy has a lot of potential. Very fast, very explosive. I see him being extremely dangerous. The guy likes to open up with combinations, explodes forward, and goes for his double. He just blasts that double, gets you against the cage, scoops you up, and slams you. That first round against Bolanos, he had Bolanos on all sorts of trouble. Until Bolanos survived, second round came in, and Romious seemed to have gassed out. And Bolanos pretty much ground and pounded him almost to stoppage. I mean, it's one of the worst beatings I've seen in a while. Now, you pit both of these guys together, I think Romious is still going to pull it off, just because Lee didn't seem to have any weapons to offer truly, besides clinching and throwing knees. So I do see Romious being able to offer more tools, being able to withstand more, and give Lee a much more difficult fight here than what Long was able. I do see Romious winning this. I think he is going to take a decision here. like I mentioned, it's just both of them gassed out in the first round. I still see that happening here. They're both going to probably go at it hard in the first, probably even mid-second round. And come the third round, are you kidding me? Lee couldn't even lift up his arms. You know, the guy was striking at long as if he was carrying, 50-pound dumbbells. And truth be told, if you come with that shit against someone like Romious, who's very athletic, and even though they're fatigued, they're still exploding on you, you can't do anything to them. So I got Romious winning this via unanimous decision. Co-main of the evening, featherweight clash between Pat Sabatini versus Joanderson Brito. Look, Joanderson Brito is a fun and exciting guy. He reminds me of those shoot-to box guys back in the early 2000s, right? Explosive, ferocious, hard-nosed, can withstand power. The guy comes to hurt. I mean, not too long ago, a few fights ago, he split open the shin of his opponent, just completely split it open just because of his brutal kicks. Like I mentioned, just that power that he throws. However, just like a lot of these Brazilians with very similar styles, they tend to throw technique out the door once they get into exchanges. Pat Sabatini made quick work of Pierce in his last fights, just bad-packed him, mounted him, bad-packed him, and submitted him. And that seems to be his go-to, right? Even though he has a loss against Lopez, but before that he also had a pretty quick submission early second round against Almeida. So we know where Sabatini wants to take this fight. Is he going to be able to withstand that storm? That's the question here. Because if Sabatini is able to get the back, I do feel like he can put in a lot of work against Brito. Probably even finish him. But I just don't think he's going to be able to withstand, like I said, that hurricane, that storm that Brito brings every single fight. Even if it does go to the ground, I've seen Joanderson Brito have some tricks up his sleeve. You know, at one point even kind of reversed Gomes. Now granted, Gomes is not at the level of Sabatini, but it tells me that Brito is aware. He's going to hit a switch on you. He's going to stand up. He's going to do something. He's not completely lost on the ground. I'm going to have to lean towards Joanderson here. I think he's going to be able to go in there. He's going to be able to frustrate Sabatini, avoid the takedown, dish out the punishment and get a stoppage here. Might be second, third round. Alright, main event time. We stay with the featherweights. Josh Emmett returns. Apparently Mr. One Punch Man returns against Leon Murphy. I'm going to start off by saying this. I've actually reviewed Leon Murphy, wow. Lerone Murphy. I did a fight preview when he was going to go up against Barboza. And I did mention that Lerone Murphy has a style to me that's very susceptible. He leaves himself out there to get hit, right? He bends at the knees to lower his levels, both knees. So it's almost like he squats with his legs wide open. And when he feints, he literally just drops, like scoots his butt down a little bit. And to me, I've always thought, what is that? You're gonna get kneed up the center. I don't know how people haven't done that. Or someone's gonna just land a big overhand, which has happened multiple times in this last couple fights. I don't even know where to truly say Lerone Murphy's strengths are at, because he's one of those hybrid fighters, just like Jason Jackson at the PFL. Their 1-2s are not that great. I don't really see them being dominant in the wrestling or the clinch or kickboxing. They're okay everywhere. Decent cardio. They tend to be the ones to push the pace, and somehow they're pulling it off. His last fight against Dan Ige, Mr. 50K, he got hurt bad. He got tagged just like he normally does. And he kind of lucked out in the sense that Dan Ige is not really a strong wrestler. So he was able to somehow survive and start wrestling and buy himself time to recover. And if that happens, and for some divine reason, Lerone Murphy survives that, as if God has plans for him, right? They like, nope, you ain't going out right now. Somehow survives it and tries to wrestle Josh Emmett. That's Team Alpha Male camp. Those guys are great wrestlers. He's not going to be able to out-wrestle Josh Emmett here. What I can say is this. Josh Emmett is kind of predictable. He doesn't set up his big shots, rarely jabs, rarely throws a front T, rarely throws leg kicks, right? Rarely even wrestles nowadays. He truly loves knocking people out. So Lerone Murphy needs to do his homework. And the only homework he needs to do is do not get clipped. But what's interesting is that in Josh's last fight, and something that nobody really talked about, Josh Emmett at first will read you by launching his hand just carelessly. He will just flick it out there to see how you react. In his last fight against Bryce Mitchell, he actually throws that same punch hard to the midsection, and Bryce completely drops his left hand. So I see Josh Emmett probably throwing big shots early to intimidate Lerone. Lerone doesn't seem like a guy that's willing to sit there, bite down on the mouthpiece, and goes and gets it. No, he's going to be too worried about the power. He doesn't have the boxing credentials good enough to the point where he can stand and trade with Josh Emmett. Like I said, Josh Emmett doesn't set up anything, so even a clean counterpuncher should be able to do well, like Elia Topuria. But Lerone Murphy just doesn't have it in him to stand there and trade. I don't think Lerone's going to launch that that body kick that he usually does throw here and there. You're not going to be able to outstrike him. You can't kickbox this man. You can't out-wrestle him. Josh Emmett's just going to go in there, and it's just a matter of time before he clips him. Just the way Dan Ige did, just the way Barbosa did. You can't afford that with Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett, all it takes is just one punch, and it's over. To drag the fight to the 4th and 5th round, I think once the fight warms up a little bit, I think once Josh Emmett gets the timing down and the speed and reaction of Lerone Murphy, he's going to land a shot that's going to end the fight.